Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Diablo 4. My name is Wilfred. So, in this episode, I'd like to talk about the co-op because when I play a game like Diablo, I always think of it as a game that I can play alone, but I also like to play with my friend as well, and it should be rewarding, fun, and having a good time. That's how I usually roll when I play ARPG. So I finally managed to group up with my guildies or friends of my clan and also from YouTube as well over the weekend, and I have some thought to share about the whole co-op experience. Now, I always like to keep it real, and so it may not be very popular kind of feedback, but it is feedback nonetheless. I do not find the co-op as rewarding as Diablo 3, or the overall experience as fun as Diablo 3, and allow me to go into my journey so far. Now, I have no idea how many hours I've spent playing the season 1. Majority is just a lonely journey to like now going to be 89, 90. And there are a couple of reasons for it. First of all, when you talk about the start of the journey, usually our priority is to grind for renown. Unless you play with your friend all the time, like you log in all the time, your progress on side quests, stronghold, and whatsoever is similar, it's going to be very difficult to group up because I may have done some side quests that you may not have done. I may have completed some stronghold that you may not have done, and so on and so forth. And with the prerequisite that you have to complete before the season as well, such as discovering all the Lilith altar. That one is a pretty boring thing to do, and also discovering all the area, right? So these are things that make it very hard to bring people together at a low level. Now, you could grind for a dungeon and get the same renown and just complete all the dungeon, but doing dungeon at the low level is not exactly that fun. And doing side quests sometimes could be quite fun, knowing the story a little bit more, and also reward such as the title as well. So I found that the renown grounding really put a lot of us into a solo kind of player. At least we try to get through all the renown for all these regions, and then we start to consider grouping up. But still, when it comes to world tier, which you have world tier 2, 3, and 4, it separates the people into different categories. Unlike Diablo 3, as a level 1, I can group with any of my friends, and they could bring me to Torment 6 and then get a good time, level me up, and then after that I can join the higher Torment, and then we can play together. The catch up is a lot easier and faster. Diablo 4 is different. World tier require you to complete the capstone dungeon to go forward to the next tier, which is a good design, of course, if you look at it as a single player game. But if you want to play with friends, and your friends are all over the place, some in world tier 2, some in 3, some in 4, you could go and help them, but then the help that you are landing is not really as substantial as you were in, say, Diablo 3, right? Because it's just a 5% extra XP. You may kill things a little bit faster, but your friend is still going through the very slow kind of like grind to the next level, and then open up a capstone. So I found that the whole world tier doesn't work at all for my friends. I'll go into a world tier a little bit because it's kind of like the whole design of the world tier. Nightmare Dungeon. So assuming that we manage to get everybody to world tier 4, like we must get there. Like over the weekend, my friend Piper and Straight Dupe, they all managed to get to world tier 4, managed to play with me. I was in my mid 80s, they were at mid 60 and mid 50 like in this video. It wasn't really a good time. Now, Nightmare Dungeon is segregated by world tier, so you can't really cross the world tier Nightmare Dungeon. Now, of course, I could do a lower level Nightmare Dungeon, but the reward to me is just not enough for me to keep me interested. Unlike, say, Diablo 3, right? I could still adjust my greater rift to a lower one, and I use the opportunity to just level up my dams, and I can empower the lower tier rift anyway, because it's cheaper to empower them. I gain again from doing that. But when it comes to Diablo 4, it is very painful for someone doing the world tier 4 going into world tier 2 or 3, because all the loots are not relevant. Unlike, say, in Diablo, Greater Rift, even maybe a legendary drop rate is not good compared, say, 70 to 90. But still, I mean, you've got legendary that is level cap. You can use it. Unlike, say, if you are from world tier 4 going to world tier 3 or 2, there is a limit to what gear that you can get from there. It's just not relevant. You can't use it at all. So there's really very little reward besides just having a good time together with your friend, right? So that's what I find. The design of the Diablo 4 Nightmare Dungeon is very rigid. You have to collect sigil in order to open up a certain level. So for example, I prefer to do 1 to 2 level above me, and that's my comfort level. I can see in the video, doing pretty okay. But then when I group up with friends who are not at that tier, it's very difficult for them to even keep alive or deal damage. I have to carry them all. Now in Diablo 3, I could adjust the GR. Maybe I don't do 90, maybe I do a 80, maybe try 75, right? Sigil doesn't work that way. You have to throw away your sigil kind of like material that you could use it to craft better thing later on, to try to catch a range of dungeon to play. Now, you know, the whole thing, of course, you could do it, but there is a much better design. And in fact, I'll do a video comparing the Nightmare Dungeon of Diablo 4, which is a 2023 game, versus one of the 5 years old Warhammer ARPG that I play, that has a very similar to design to what the Nightmare Dungeon is, but it's a lot easier to group up, a lot easier to kind of like mix the affixes with the level above you. So I'll go to that a little bit, but the Nightmare Dungeon is really, it's alright if you play solo, and it's not alright when you are playing co-op. And also because of the lack of grouping feature. So for example, if you play Diablo 3, bounty, you can open up a game, or you know, join another game, and you can have 4 people roughly at the same level as yours playing the bounty together. Everybody can contribute effectively. To me, Nightmare Dungeon is a glorified bounty. Inside each dungeon is more or less the same for each of the same dungeon, maybe some variation here and there. Objectives are the same for each of the dungeon, and you just can split up. Like for example, if you need to carry 3 stones into the pedestal, 3 people split up and do their thing. But that would have been fun if Diablo 4 Nightmare Dungeon allow us to open up the game and or join another game to play the Nightmare Dungeon. Then it's nice, it's fun. But it isn't like that at all. So it's not that fun at all. As a co-op, solo is alright, you know. Co-op, unless you are at the higher tier, when you are at 90 plus, maybe, you know, the if you are not that much of the difference between your friends, I think you're okay. If you guys are all in 70, join together, you know, that would be fun. But it's very hard to find someone that has similar kind of like a level range. And in my mind, level 50 is already sort of like starting to collect the Paragon. So to me, that stops all the skill progression and it's going to the Paragon kind of like setup. So in my mind, 50 of D4 is like the level cap in D3, and then continue is basically the Paragon point farming, which D4 will bring us all the way to 100, stop there. D3, in my mind, maybe 800 Paragon point is where you nicely can open up all the Paragons, and that is how I map it back. So in a sense, if I'm mid-80s playing with my friend in mid-60 and mid-50, they are all above 50. They all get their skill points. So the rest of it, the difference between all of us are just, of course, the Paragon point. And that's how I see it. That's how I map it back to D3. Now, I don't think the cross play is working at all. It's very frustrating. No offense, because I do have friends and YouTube subscriber like yourself who is playing on the console. But if I group up with the console people, the only thing I can communicate is through emote. If I type something, they can't type it back to me because they are playing on the controller and it's in front of the TV, right? While I'm on my PC, I can type anything I want. So when I play with PC players, we can communicate, we can talk about things. But when it comes to crossplay, it's just a matter of like emo, like, oh yes, no, point here, wait, follow, kind of thing. It's very, very strange. And also the latency is pretty bad as well for co-op, especially crossplay. I'm experiencing at least 2 to 3 times higher latency. And in a game like Diablo, which is an action role-playing game, that is quite a fair bit. Next point, level requirement of gear. Like for example, my friend just crossed the world tier 4. Hooray! Happy for him. And he did it at around 66, 65, 66. So great stuff. So I'm keen to share some gear with him, right? But I can't share the unique, nor I can't share the legendary even. All I can share is rare yellow items. Now, there is a level requirement on all these yellow items. And at my level, all my ancestral gear is 80 and above. So my friend can't have it. I can't even give it to him, like, or her. Say, oh, use it. You can't use it. So that's number one. Number two is that the rare gear in Diablo 4, you have to sift through hundreds of garbage in order to find the one that you can use. Unless my friend is using the exact same build as mine, I have absolutely no idea if that gear is good for him or her. You can't even tell that, oh, I want this weapon. Like in Diablo 3, I can say, oh, I'm looking for Traveler's Pledge or some gear that I'm looking for. Can you pass it to me if you find one? There's none in D4. Every slot have their own prioritization in terms of stats, and it really depends on build on what you're lacking. I can't even help my friend at all. So there's no point even sharing gear, which is very fundamental when it comes to Diablo franchise, which is to help each other out, right? It's like, oh, I'm giving you some gear that you could use. Of course, I could dump the whole set of gear on my back on the floor, and for my friend to sift through the hundreds of garbage to find that one item to imprint. But that is not the most efficient way of doing things, right? And the other thing, the last point is really the penalty of grouping up as well, because if my friend want to join me like World Tier 4, I'm in my mid-80s, mid-60, my friends are mid-60 or mid-50. Helltide, for example, has a penalty on the Cinder. Now, I've nothing against the penalty on Cinder, don't get me wrong, because I think it makes the gameplay kind of exciting for certain build and for certain level, because I feel that beyond certain kind of like level, Helltide, unless you're AFK while the firestorm is cast upon you, you're fine. You won't get destroyed at all unless you do something very bizarre. But if I want to bring my friend together to play the Helltide, and every time when my friend, low level friend, kind of like get defeated, and he or she lost a whole chunk of Cinder, it's not fun for the person. Now, should people be penalized for not staying alive in Helltide? That's part of the gameplay. But what I'm saying is that it's not fun if you grouped up, follow people around for the Helltide, and basically the only reason why you want to follow someone for the Helltide, maybe just get some oboe for your curiosity, kind of like vendor stuff. So my overall experience with co-op or playing with friends isn't that pleasant. Now, of course, I could bring my friends to Nightmare Dungeon at my level, go a little bit slower, and to them, they still gain the Glyph XP, which I'm glad that they didn't nerf it like they nerfed the monster XP. Had they not nerfed the monster XP, maybe it's still quite fun, because if I bring someone into a dungeon and I can power level them pretty fast, maybe it's good as well because it benefit me. I got a friend who's closer level to me and he's able to contribute and we can play together. But as it stands with the XP nerf that even if you deal with monster 20 level above you, you only gain the up to I don't know how many % of the XP bonus. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it at all. I'm surprised that they didn't nerf the Glyph though. I hope they don't because that's the only reward for the for the nightmare dungeon when you have such a huge kind of like a number of level of gap or differences. But anyway, keen to hear your thoughts as well. Have you tried out the co-op? And assuming that you are playing with someone who have their own individual progress and not just tied by the hips and every day play together. How's your experience so far? Am I missing something? Are there any area that I should pay attention to make my co-op experience better? Do feel free to share with me at the comments box below. So I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.